Good morning, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to day 5 of 31 days of witchcraft. Morning thoughts from me again. Today we're talking about witchcraft classes. This was a tricky question because I have taken a bunch of classes, yes. However, a lot of my classes were tied in with some sort of spiritual path. When I was a brand new baby witch, there was like a book club slash class at a local metaphysical store, and I started going to that, but the class turned out to be essentially like a Wicca 101 course, and Wicca is where you blend, in my experience. Wicca is the spiritual practice associated with modern neo-paganism, modern Western witchcraft, but it's the spiritual belief structure combined with a practice of witchcraft. At least that's how I experienced it back then. And so I wouldn't say it was just on craft. In fact, I would say most of the stuff we studied had to do with more of the spiritual side or the spiritual practice. So I had that experience, and then I never got deeply involved with that group, but later on I found out there was a scandal with the leader and taking advantage of girls. And this is something that I think happens a lot in any community, I suppose, where you have some sort of leadership situation, which is unfortunate, where I'm not saying that everyone is bad. I'm also not awake. But what I guess I'm saying is that whenever you have a situation where somebody can rise to a place of power, which I would say within traditional Wiccan type traditions, there's usually some sort of high priest and high priestess, or just a high priestess or something. And I haven't had the best experiences with spiritual leaders in my life. Fast forward a while, and I ended up joining like an eclectic earth-based spirituality group that was mostly eclectic, but there was sort of an inner circle of people who had formed a spiritual path or spiritual practice, combined with craft again, around sort of Celtic shamanism and some similar belief structures. And I got involved with them for a while, met some really, really amazing people. However, I had a problem, or ended up having a clash or a problem with a spiritual leader of that group. And when I had that clash, essentially I stood up to somebody because the way that they were treating others was making me really uncomfortable. And I stood up to that person, and it caused a rift in the community where I was essentially outcast, and anyone who associated with me was also outcast. So that was not fun, and it sucked because at that point in my practice, I had gotten pretty close with these people. I was spending a lot of time with them, and so when this happened, it literally felt like I lost all of my friends. And while one or two stayed in contact with me, I would say maybe up to 3 people, I guess, stayed in contact with me. One of them did so entirely in secret. In fact, I still remember the day that that person came to a birthday gathering of mine. And it was so nice to see them, and I was just really touched that they traveled to come to that event. I'm totally sidetracking, but that's okay. And then they tell me, happy birthday, please don't tell so-and-so that I was here. And I'm like, what? So I have some not great, but very profound experiences with spiritual leadership in pagan community, and it's not real great, to be completely honest. That said, I feel like if I hadn't have had those experiences, I wouldn't have had the associated growth that came along with them. And I also don't think I would have gained the confidence that I gained about my own beliefs and my own spiritual practice. So since then, I have done other classes, but again, most of the classes or things I would classify as classes that I've taken have been more spiritual based. I spent time in the Sisterhood of Avalon, and somebody recently asked me to talk more about that. And I may do that at some point. I'm not sure actually if I will or I won't. I'm still mulling it over. But again, that was very spiritual. I would say much more spiritual than craft. And so most of my craft actually has been self-taught or has been book taught, as far as how to do things. And I'm kind of glad of that in a way, because I feel as though I was able to experience a wide range of, or be exposed, I guess, to a wide range of practices, and then decide which things I wanted to pursue, and then sort of pursue them individually on my own. I do think it's common in pagan community to see craft and spirituality very intermingled. And while I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, and I've had really enjoyable experiences that way, it hasn't focused so much on the skill of the craft as it's focused on how to incorporate craft into a spiritual practice. So if you're interested in just simply learning craft, or you want to build an eclectic practice, it can be a little tricky to just be like, I just want to learn about candle magic, or I just want to learn about working with crystals magically, or I just want to learn how to work with poppets, or sigils, or herbs. And I think that's kind of a shame, because I feel like we could use more of those eclectic friendly resources. I think we'd see a lot more multi-faith witches if we had better access to knowledge in a non-dogmatic way. I think that's why creators like Kellyanne Maddox are so amazing to watch, because she does an excellent job of talking about different forms of craft throughout her channel, but untied to a specific spiritual dogma. And I think that's really powerful. It's one of the things that inspired me to start the Eclectic Witches, or Eclectic Witchcraft. I can't remember the name of my own series because my coffee is over there in a mug and I haven't had my first sip. But that's why I started the Eclectic Witchcraft series, because I want to talk about craft. I want to talk about foundations of craft, but I also want to talk about spirituality, and I want those things to be semi-separate. Like, I want to say, yeah, well, let's talk about candle magic today, regardless of what you believe. And then over here, let's talk about connecting with deity. And then if you're into that, you can tune into that. You know what I mean? So I want it to be very like pick and choose what interests you kind of stuff. But yeah, I feel like I rambled a lot in today's episode, but I keep calling them episodes. I think that's kind of weird, but I can't stop either. Like, it's like a bad habit I've built up. In tomorrow's video, hopefully I'll be a little bit more coherent. But yeah, I feel like I've had mixed experiences. I really wish I'd have had access to people who were willing to just sit down with me when I was new and just talk about the basic practices, outside of whether or not I'm going to worship just a goddess or a goddess and a god, and how do I feel about working with the moon. Like, it would be nice to have had access to resources and to teaching that was not about the spiritual path. Because as much beauty and power as I've found in my spiritual path, I also feel like sometimes having the two, and I feel like this is totally a throwback to the first prompt, but having witchcraft and spirituality so intrinsically linked, it can make it so that you feel like you don't have the agency to craft your own craft, to design your own practice. Because you start to feel like there's a certain set of like rituals or observances or belief structures that you have to follow. And my most empowering witchcraft has been since it's my craft and my spiritual path, which were sort of more separated in my mind. That's where I started to really expand and grow in my craft, because I was like, oh, I can do what I want here, and I can tie it in with my beliefs or not over here. And it just opened my world up a lot wider. So yeah, those are my thoughts on classes. But short answer, no, never taken a class on straight up craft, but lots and lots of spiritual classes. And yeah, that's where I'm gonna end this one. I'm gonna go ramble my way into the rest of my morning. I hope you have a beautiful day or evening or afternoon, wherever you might be, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.